Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
I want to talk about a mock draft here from CBS Sports. Interesting way they went about it. So, I mean, we've given you a lot of different mock drafts from CBS Sports here, on AFR throughout. Really going back to maybe about the middle of football season, of college football season, I should say. And there's a bunch of different ways these go about. So this is a 2-round mock, and it was co-authored by CBS Sports NFL Draft Insider Ryan Wilson and former Vikings general manager Rick Spielman. So how they did this, they went through this mock draft on an episode of the latest episode of the podcast with the first pick, and then CBS, authored it and posted it up there. So they alternated picks throughout. That's just some background on it. You don't really have to know that, but Ryan Wilson did the even number picks and Rick did the odd number picks. But what's more important is where they have things going. I mean, if you just want to look at the LSU guys briefly before we get into the Saints, you're seeing a lot of trends continue. Jaden Daniels in this mock is set at number 2 to the Washington Commanders. You're seeing that more and more and more and more and more. Daniels is absolutely a top 10 pick, I believe, and it looks more and more like he's locked into the top 3 and probably trending more towards number 2 overall. Malik Neighbors you're seeing in this one at number 5 to the Los Angeles Chargers. That's something you're starting to see more and more. Him, wide receiver number 2, right behind Marvin Harrison. And I, for one, have not seen Malik Neighbors mocked below 6. So it feels like he's either going 5 to LA or 6 to the Giants. That's where you see him most often. That just hasn't changed. That's a trend that continues. One thing with the LSU guys that did catch my eye that I thought was really interesting and could be really fun to watch is Brian Thomas. So Rick Spielman made this pick in the mock, and he had Brian Thomas going to the Texans at 23 overall. When I think about what C.J. Stroud was able to do last year, really without major weapons. I mean, Tank Dell ended up having a great season. We know that. But I don't think anybody really looked at the Houston Texans receiving core as, just this embarrassment of riches for a rookie quarterback, and C.J. Stroud played so well that it kind of turned into that. Now, again, a lot of that is his doing. You get him a weapon like Brian Thomas, and watch out where that passing game can go with C.J. Stroud in his second year in the league. I mean, we've seen Thomas mocked to some pretty interesting places. Cincinnati's been one of them that I think everybody obviously would love because of the Joe Burrow connection and whatnot. But when I look at that, we've seen him to the Jaguars, him to go and play Trevor Lawrence. That would be intriguing, but man, coming off the year that C.J. Stroud had, if you can link him up with a weapon like Brian Thomas, who's probably going to end up being one of, if not the biggest steal in the first round, just because of the athleticism that he has, the ability that he has, he's going to test off the charts in Indianapolis and obviously at a pro day. So he could end up being one of the biggest steals. And if you pair him with a guy like C.J. Stroud, that could be really, really, really entertaining to watch and intriguing, obviously, for the AFC South as well. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Hey, it's the first time I'd seen that, and it definitely caught my eye for that reason. Let's get into the New Orleans Saints. So earlier in the show, in the first hour, we had Mike Triplett on, and we talked a lot of draft with Mike, and we talked a lot of salary cap. But while we were talking draft, I asked him position of need. What's his biggest position of need for the Saints? Because I think when you look at it right now, the 3 that you keep seeing in these mock drafts, the 3 that you keep seeing in any write-up, defensive line, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. And when I asked that question to Mike, he went defensive line as his biggest position of need. And it's easy to see why. Like, if I'm to pull up the Saints depth chart right now for 2024, projected depth chart, I guess we should say, for 2024, and I look at the defensive line, Cam Jordan, obviously, but getting older. I mean, that's the caveat you have to throw out there for Cam every time. And look, even in the older age, the production was there. Not so much this past season. There was injuries and whatnot. Absolutely, I totally understand. But that's a caveat now that you have to throw out with Cam Jordan every single time. Behind him, Tano Passanio, who played well at times this past year. Isaiah Foskey, who, of course, they drafted in the second round and spent most of his rookie year injured. Opposite that, Carl Granderson, I thought really actually had a nice season there. Peyton Turner, who again ran into some injuries last year. Nathan Shepard, Colin Saunders in the middle. Brian Brzee, who had a nice rookie year. Malcolm Roach, who is a free agent right now. You'd have to re-sign him. But he also dealt with injuries. So that's what I look at. There's a lot of numbers. Like, there's numbers there for the Saints. I mean, we just went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys. The problem is you get thin really quick because of injury. Isaiah Foskey, Malcolm Roach, Tano Passanio, Cam Jordan a little bit. You get thinned out very fast there if you're the Saints. So what you're probably looking for is guys who are going to be on the field more consistently. I don't want to throw dirt on Isaiah Foskey yet. It was one season. Let's see how he goes. But it's unfortunate that it happened so much in his rookie season because that potentially it holds you back. You're starting a little bit more now from square one in year two. It's kind of a Trevor Penning thing, who we're going to get to. But I go so deep in the defensive line right now because in this mock draft at pick 14, Ryan Wilson has the Saints taking Byron Murphy, defensive lineman from Texas. Think it would be a great pick. He's had a great career at the University of Texas. Versatile guy there as well, 6'1", 308. I mean, you could probably move him inside. You could probably have him play a big defensive end position. So that obviously is something that you like. I mean, he obviously provides more interior, and that's one of the biggest needs there. But if you can pair him with Brian Brzee and then still have Colin Saunders, fullback extraordinaire, still have Colin Saunders, still have Nathan Shepard as well, who they just restructured his deal. So, he's obviously back. You get really strong there in the middle, and then you decide what you want to do with a guy like Malcolm Roach. I would love that pick, 100%. You go down to pick number 45 in this. Of course, that's the pick that the Saints have from Denver. And this pick was made by Rick Spielman, and it's another defensive lineman. This time it's edge rusher Chris Braswell from Alabama. Braswell's a really, really good player. I mean, look, Dallas Turner gets all the headlines, and rightfully so over there. But Braswell, opposite of him, was lethal. Like, the combination of edge rushers that Alabama had, having to replace Will Anderson was ridiculous. But I would love that. And you really bolster because Cam's getting up there. You need relief there. It feels very much like an Isaiah Foskey pick. Like, wouldn't it? A guy who's plenty talented enough coming in there in the second round who you think can contribute early and immediately as a rookie, provided health. That would bolster the defensive line depth tremendously in New Orleans, and I'd be all for it. And like I said, I like Braswell as a player who was still able to put up numbers and just didn't grab the headlines because he's playing opposite of Dallas Turner. It's also one reason why he was still able to put up numbers. He's a lot of attention's going to go towards Dallas Turner. But look, the Saints have done great developing defensive linemen as well. So you get two talented players potentially, like a Byron Murphy, like a Chris Braswell in there, and I think you feel really good. The thing that gives me pause on that is I really want the Saints to take an offensive tackle in the first round. And this is similar to kind of what Mike Triplett was saying earlier too. I look at these mock drafts constantly, and it looks like such a deep class offensive tackle-wise in the NFL. Like, just in this mock draft right here, we can do this live. Do this exercise live right now. How many were taken? 1, starting at pick number 6. 1, there's 2, there's 3. Just continuing on. Now you get to the Saints at 14, and there's already been 3 off the board. Go through a little bit more. There's Amarius Mims at 20. That's 4. J.C. Latham, a pick later. That's 5 offensive tackles. And 2 still on the board right there when the Saints pick. Jordan Morgan at pick 30. That's 6. And another one who would still be on the board when the Saints pick. Tyler Guyton at pick 31. That's 6. Or is that 7? I think I lost count. And then there's Graham Barton at the very end at number 32. In this mock, the last 3 picks are offensive tackles. You have a majority. Take your pick if you're the Saints, potentially in this scenario, of guys who are being mocked first round. They're going to still be available. And look, you make your decision what you want to do with Andrus Peat. If you want to bring him back on a 1-year deal, he played really well for you at left tackle in a pinch last year. That wasn't what you expected. We didn't even know if Andrus Peat was going to be on the team last year at this time. And he ends up being your everyday left tackle. What are you going to do with James Hurst? Bring him back? Of course, you could, but James Hurst, Andrus Peat ends up kind of replacing him and Trevor Penning. And that's the other thing is Trevor Penning. And I know the Saints, Mickey Loomis, Dennis Allen, Jeff Ireland spoke about it at the Senior Bowl. Anyone you ask over there in that organization, they tell you they still have the faith in Trevor Penning and they want to bring him along. And I get that. And it's just you guys develop at their own pace and they haven't given up or whatnot. But that's hard for me to believe in a sense because he doesn't play. I, along with everyone else, loved that pick when they made it. And yes, it's really unfortunate that he got hurt his rookie year and had to miss the majority of that, and that absolutely set him back 100%. But the Saints are in such a win-now mode, or at least they think they are, in such a win-now mode that he's not really being allowed to work through it. Is that fair to say? Andrus Peat was your left tackle last year. When Ryan Ramchek's down, Landon Young's playing over there. How is Trevor Penning supposed to work through it and improve if he's not getting to do that in the game? So you say one thing, but you're doing something else because you're trying to win. And I fully respect that you're trying to win. But we also can't just sit here and, he's developing, he's coming along. We need to see more from him when he's not out there on the field to show you more. So, if that's going to be the case, draft me a guy this year that you think can be a franchise guy. Because you can't just keep bringing Andrus Peat back on 1-year deals year after year after year. You can't just bring James Hurst back year after year after year. You can't just hope Trevor Penning develops into something when he's not playing in the game. And you have a lot of options in this year's draft at offensive tackle, and I would like to see the Saints make a move there. That is what I would like to see them do in the draft. And then at 2, if you want to take a guy like Braswell off the edge, I'm all for that as well. If you take defensive tackle, I'm not going to be disappointed. But if it were up to me, take the offensive tackle and see if you can really stabilize that line. Because your quarterback got hurt way too much last year. That's the other part of this. You got to be able to keep Derek Carr upright if you think he is the guy who's going to bring you division titles and trips to the playoffs. And if you think ultimately he can get you to the Super Bowl, you have to be able to keep him healthy and upright. And you did not do a very good job of that in his first season.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.